program. Now, the only other question I might have for you, does anybody understand where the minus 32 might come from? That seems like a really odd number.
Is that gravity?
It is gravity. On planet Earth, gravity falls minus 32 feet per second per second. That's why there's a square. In other words, every second you fall another 32 feet faster. 32 times 30, so you start booking after a while. Of course, there is something on Earth called a terminal velocity, where the air pressure will stop you from going any faster, because it's like trying to, at that point, it becomes almost like you're going through water, because you're going so fast, the air is stopping you. If it was a complete vacuum and there was no air there, well, obviously we'd be dead anyways, but if that was the case and you drop something, it won't stop moving until it hits something. Does that make sense? Okay, that's the effects of gravity, so we will not talk about that anymore. I just wanted you to understand where the 32 came from, okay? And the reason it's negative is because it's going down, not up. And the first question on home is just that right there. The very same thing that I just said. Notice it says a golf ball is hit with an initial velocity, also known as the muzzle velocity, of 150 feet FPS, 150 FPS. So you see why there's 150 down here, because that's where the number of the muzzle velocity goes. So every one of you will get a different muzzle velocity, but they'll give you the equation right here. But if you were in a physics class, you would have to make that equation. But that wouldn't be hard, you just stick the number right there, right? But now it's not physics. But I am trying to prepare you for when you get to physics, how to deal with the math, if you go there. If you don't go there, but it is part of my job to work with the physics department to make sure you understand some of this. So that's where that comes from. Now, we're gonna ask, notice there's a bunch, the first two questions are all, they say GC right here, which stands for graphing calculator, right? And this function, we're gonna ask a whole bunch of questions like, okay, first of all, what is the height when the golf ball is hit 100 feet? Well, X is the distance from wherever you hit it. So we're gonna make a table, because first of all, you wanna take the number 100 and put it in for this X and start calculating it out. I mean, it's not hard, and you have a calculator, so you could do it. But then what if you had to put in the number 100, and then the number 200, and then the number 300, and the number 400? After a while, wouldn't it be nicer just to set up this one time, and you can just push those numbers and let the calculator do the work? Does that make sense? Because that's exactly what we're going to do. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is make sure that your y equals 2 is clear. Now, I can do it on both of these calculators. It looks way better on the 84, but it works just as well on the 83. The only difference between my 84 and this 83 is, well, the 84 makes better fraction looking parts, and it also has color for the lines and stuff. So it is better, but it's not, $150 better. The other one, it works just fine. You just have to read through the black and white. All right. So I'll do it on both if I can. Let's start with the 83 here. So the other good thing about my 83 is I can look at the problem because it's smaller. Okay, so you go up here. Go ahead and get right on top of your Y1 and clear it out. Make sure that everybody has a clear Y1. And let's type in. Now, I want to pull this. You don't have to, I guess, but yeah, just type it in just like that. I don't even think you need to use. Yeah, even order of operations is fine. You don't even need to use parentheses. You should be able to type it straight in here. It should work. So let's find out. So make sure you start with a negative though, not a subtraction. That's something really important. Notice it says minus. It doesn't mean subtract. It means negative. That negative right there. If you put this minus over, it won't like it. Okay. So the negative sign, then 32, and then divide by 150 squared. Your problem will have a different number there, that's it. Okay, you'll have a different muzzle velocity. 150 squared is a pretty good hit. Actually, that's for a golf ball. I mean, for FPS for a gun, that would be nothing. Right? You can get shot in the arm with that one, but a golf ball, that's pretty good. Okay, and then just put plus X. Okay.
Do you need to put the X squared?
Oh, I forgot my X squared. Right up here. I sure did. Second insert X. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to go to the table. Remember how to get to the table? You hit second, and right above graph is table. You're probably going to have some old work there. Probably test you just took, who knows, just hit delete. Should have a nice clean slate there. If you can't delete the numbers, let me know, because that means you don't have the table set right. Okay, what's the first question they ask? Right here, so it says 100, so I'm just gonna type in 100. And it'll round to 2 decimal places, I'd say 85.78, wouldn't you? Okay. And then they're gonna ask for what, 250? Well, we're just gonna go right down to the next line and put in a 250. See why this is nice to do? Because I don't wanna go back and forth and doing that. Well, how high is it there? 161? Keep an eye on that height. Oh, I forgot what it was. 61.11. Okay, keep an eye on that. So we know at some point it's at least 161.11 feet up in the sky. We're gonna need to know, or at least guesstimate how high it goes in a second, you'll see. What is it at 400? Okay, well, we still have our calculator out, and see how convenient it was since we had to calculate it 3 times, 172. So we're getting even higher. 172.44, but you know that a golf ball's not gonna keep getting higher and higher and higher, it's eventually gonna what? Fall back down, so at some point it's gonna come back down. Now, this asks you to interpret what it says, the height of the golf ball after it has traveled a horizontal distance of 400 feet is this, that's correct. Or a height of 400 feet, no, the height's not 400 feet, 400 feet will be put in for the X, so this is wrong. This is the one we wanna use, and we just wanna use that same number we just got. Okay, so in other words, they're just asking you to interpret this.
How do you make it so it's decimals? Because mine's just staying in fractions.
There's an interesting way to do that on yours. Here, I'll do this on the 84 that I have. Okay, so on the 84, let me put it in real fast. Ooh, I gotta set the table up, it's terrible. Because I have to restart this thing every day because IT is just mean at me. So it's like a brand new calculator every day. And so then I come in here and what was the first one, 100? And then you got decimals, I got decimals.
Mine's in a fraction. All of mine are in fractions.
Okay, so, let me see how I have my notes up here. Yeah, no, I have it the same as you. Well, try this. Go to y equals. Okay, go to y2. You there? Okay. And then type variables. You do that? And then go over to y variables. And then hit enter and then choose y1. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, now right here under math, hit the math button, and then you see where it says number 2, change it to a decimal. You do that?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go to the table. And you should see 2 columns now, one has fractions, one has decimals. Does that work?
Yeah.
Is that cool or what? Because now you get both.
Okay.
You can't do that on 83, you guys, sorry. It's not possible. But see, you should see his, because his have a fraction here and a decimal here.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, you
It's
see
not
it?
fair.
That's pretty cool, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, you wouldn't know how to do that with my help. Anyway, all right, back to the homework. So, there we go, okay. Now, how far was the golf ball hit? This is where the calculator can be very useful. Okay, so minus 32 x squared over 150 squared plus x is the height of the golf ball. Now, from the distance, when you tee up on a golf ball right here, that's the height of the golf ball right there. What is it? 0. And what is the distance from the tee? 0. So if I factor this thing out with an x right here, I'm gonna get x times minus 32 over 150 squared times 1x plus 1 is equal to 0. Right? So see how that x times x would be x squared, and that x times 1 would be x? Now, that tells me that one of my answers is x equals to 0. So whenever the ball is 0 feet from the tee, it's 0 height in the air. That makes sense, right? So the other x, the one that's in here, must be the other place is equal to 0, which is when it stops, right? It goes up, way over here, and then somewhere over here, it's gonna be a height of 0 again eventually, right? That's gonna be how far the golf ball was hit. So we have to solve this equation for x. We can do minus 32 over 150 squared times x equals to -1. I just moved the 1 to the other side. And then cancel the negatives, right, because there's negatives on each side, just divide through the negative. And then multiply by the reciprocal, 150 squared over 32. 150 squared over 32. That whole side cancels and there's x, and it's 150 squared over 32. That's how far it goes. Now see what that number is. Hold on, don't panic just yet, I want to show you something cool. I'm gonna use my calculator here. Let's see what that is. 150 squared divided by 32. And 703.125 feet. Let's first of all see if that works. Round to 2 decimal places. 703.13. Oh, where did I go? I had it at .13.
It's not so.
Why is it not doing? What is going on here? Point, I accidentally hit the enter button, before I hit the points right next to the enter button. A fat finger here. Okay, so that seems kind of complicated, and it is, but check this out. If we go ahead and take a look at this as a graph, now don't hit graph just yet. What does the standard graph go from?
To 10.
Minus 10 to 10 and minus 10 to 10. Now, we've already seen that that golf ball has gone at least 172 feet in the sky and has traveled, we shouldn't know this yet, but it goes 700 feet this way. And if I've only got 10 right there, that's like a tiny window. That's like looking at it like right there in terms of our window. It will look like some sort of straight line because we're just gonna be looking at this part right here. We wanna look at the whole picture, right? So watch what happens when I hit graph. You don't do this. You see it looks like just a straight line? Oh, I still got that change the fraction thing in the y too. That's why I turned that on. For me, you guys don't need to. Okay, so doesn't it look like a straight line? Because what you're seeing is this. First of all, we're going to start from 0 and go this way. There's no reason to even look at negatives, right? Because it's only going to positive. Or get down here, that's under the ground, right? So this whole side right here, we should start our window at 0. And instead of going to 10, if we knew it was 703, we wouldn't have to do all this. But if you're hitting a golf ball, how many feet does it go? Well, it depends on it, but if you're a regular golfer, it's probably going to go a few hundred yards or something like that, right? If you're a good golfer, it's probably what they modeled after this. So I would say if I was Tiger, what is that hitting, 300 yards? That's 900 feet, right? Because there's 3 feet in each yard. So just as a starting point, I would put 900. Turns out it's only 700, but we'll catch it at least, right? So I'm going to start by putting not 900, not because the problem told me to. Actually, it will in a second, but just because I want to make a guesstimation using what I know about golfing. Now, how about the height? Well, at 10 feet up in the air, we know that it's going to go at least 172, maybe even higher, but probably not much higher. So what do you think about putting in 250 just as a starting point? Now, once we see the picture, we can come back and adjust, right? So where do I change all those numbers? Window, right. So hit the window. Your minimum x should be 0 because we're staying in the positive values. Your maximum x we're going to choose is 900 as a guesstimation. We can always change this, right? Then what's our minimum y going to be? Well, that's also the ground, so let's make that 0. And make our maximum y, I'm just picking 250, not really randomly, it's bigger than 170. and it kinda gives me a little bit of headroom in case I, but if the graph leaves the window, I can always come back and adjust, right? So now that we put this in, let's see what it looks like. I'll live with that. That looks more like everything. Yeah, I got a little too much with the height and a little too much with the distance because I was wanting to make sure I caught it all, but I can see everything just fine now, right? I could come back and adjust it. And we may have to because I think that the problem's gonna tell us to do this in a second. But let's go ahead and stick with this. What is the equation that mimics the height of the ground here? What would the equation be of that x-axis? What is the equation of
Y
the
equals
x-axis?
0.
Y equals 0. So if we go back over to the y equals this time, and we put 0 in for x2, because I have a better calculator, it's going to turn my x-axis red because it just graphed red. If you have an 83 or a black and white calculator, it just graphed a black line on top of a black line. So obviously you don't see any change, but it's there. But you can definitely see it's there on mine, right? And I want to know what this point is right here. Sorry. I want to know what this point is right here. Because that's where it hits the ground, right? It has an x value and a y value. So as long as I intersect my little spider guy with the red graph and the blue graph, that's where they're going to intersect, and it's going to tell me the x value and the y value. So do you remember how to get to calculate? It's right above trace. Second calc right there, and then hit number 5, or go down to there, and there's my spider guy. You should see one too. And then just moving the left and right arrows only, the right one in this case, just get somewhere close. You don't have to be right on it. That's pretty close, right? It's close enough. Now hit enter one time to choose that curve, and then notice that the mouse jumps down to the next one also, and hit enter again, and then go make a guess. Okay, that's fine. I'll use that as my guess. And it'll think and look what it says. What did we come up with? 703.13? Same as this one. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. So we go back and look at that and we say, okay, well that's why that works. We could have done the math up here like this. We did the math here by moving that to the other side and then taking that, well, negatives off because there's 2 negatives on each side, and then just flipping that over. Okay, and that's it right there. That's 703.1 when you calculate that. And I'll put it there, so approximately 703. Now look what it says on the next question. It's actually telling us to go on the x's from 0 to 800, and on the y's from 0 to 180. So now we have to go back and fix that because our graphs aren't, any one of these graphs could be the graph of the function if you change the window. So if I go back to my calculator and go to the window, and it said not 900, the actual number was 800. Well, we use our brain to come up with it, and then 180 was the other one for this one, so. And then we can graph it again. Now it's gonna look more like one of theirs. Let's see which one you think it is. I gotta go with B, don't you? Because it could have been any one of those with a different window set.
Yeah,
Did you get it on yours? You're not trying, okay, do it.
it was just, no matter how you scale a window,
Yeah.
it'll try to display it.
We'll get to it. You can probably look it up on YouTube real fast. Not right now. Okay. Okay, so we know that the ball goes at least 170 feet up in the sky, don't we? How do I know that? Because one of the answers was 170 feet up in the sky. I know it goes at least that high. Does that mean it went from 0 up to 170? Did it have to go through 100 at some point? And then we also know it came back down, so it comes back down through 100 at the second point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and change that 0 that I have in Y2, and I'm going to stick it at 100, because the question asks, when is it 100 feet in the sky? And now if I graph it, I can see there's the graph. There are 2 places where it's 100 feet in the sky, 2 places where it hits that red line. How do you think I'm going to find them? Spider. A little spider guy that I'm going to intersect, right? Now you gotta be careful. I like to jump, if you move up and down, you just go between the graphs, you don't move at all. So like if I push down, I'll jump over to the red one. I like doing that though, because it's easier to move on a straight line. Do you see what I mean? And now you don't have to be right on it, you gotta be closer to this one than that one, otherwise it'll keep gravitating to the closest one. So that's close enough, so hit, enter, and then, I hit the wrong thing there, didn't I? I did. Sorry, not my fault. Number 5 is wrong. Okay, now, close enough, now hit enter, enter, and enter. And it looks like what, 582.3951? We'll write those down, 582 point, what is it? 39, oh, that's 0.40, isn't it, when you round it?
Yeah.
Or 0.4? And what's the next one? Second, calculate the intersection. I'm just gonna cruise this way. Now notice that I'm going up, I can hit the down arrow to get onto the straight line. It's just easy, it's faster to take a straight line than a curved line. And just get somewhere close, and then 3 times on the enter. And I got 128.73, or 120, right, 120. We'll go back to the problem. The ball has fell with 2 different values, 582.4, comma, 120.73. Does that make sense how I did that? I just stuck the 100 into Y2, and then I use the intersection button to get there. Make sense? Okay. Now, mathematically speaking, if the equation looks like this, minus 32x squared over 150 squared plus x is equal to 100, I could subtract 100 from both sides, set it equal to 0. Does that make sense, right? By subtracting 100 from both sides. And now I have a quadratic that has an a value of minus 32 over 150 squared. A b value is equal to 1, and a c value equals to negative 100. And you technically could put those 3 numbers into the quadratic formula, and you should then get both of these numbers right here. Of course, that would be horrific in the quadratic formula, right? I mean, who would want to do that? Well, if you were able to put it into the quadratic formula that I wrote, which you can't yet. I mean, you got a good one here. You've written so many. And a would be minus 32 divided by 150 squared. What is b again? And what is c? Well, then you should put those numbers right out. Isn't that nice? Okay, now the problem is you can't do that on your calculator yet. But I'm gonna probably show it to you on Thursday, all right? So you how to make your calculator do that? Takes about 15 minutes, what is it? Not that one, 10 minutes, please. But you don't need it, because look, they're the same numbers we got on this one doing the intersection thing, so as long as, plus this whole problem was meant for you to do the graphing calculator, right? All right, now you know this thing has a maximum height, right? This number right here can be calculated by minus b over 2a. Did you know that? But it can also calculate it by another way. This is also known as the axis of symmetry. Do we know how far it is from here to here? What is it?
The midpoint of the
703.13 cut in half, right? So let's see what that number is. Divided by 2. Okay, now, this is where you've got to really pay attention. I'm going to write this get 351.57 when you round the two places, right? Okay, because here's what will get you. And remember, I can't always adjust these things the way I want you, these questions. So here's what they're saying. They want you to create a table. I don't want you to create a table. It says, find out what this number is right here, where it reaches its maximum height. But if you could only count by 25s, now you count by 25s. 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. If you could only count by 25s, what's the closest you could get to that number?
350.
Does that make sense? Why not? Why they're asking you, it may not, but by counting by 25, the closest you can get is 350. That's what they want you to do here. See what they really should have done is said, what is the actual place? Because the actual place is this one. They're going to ask you that in a second. But now they're going to ask you what the actual height is here. But not at the true place. They're going to want you to use the what? The number you just used, which was 350. How do I do that? Just go to the table and put in 350. See what I'm saying? So if I go to the table, which I already have, second table, just put in 350. So they're saying 175.78. Okay. That's actually not true. It's a little bit higher than that because the actual true middle of that thing is what? Right here? Now, if you were to round this up to the nearest whole number, what would it be? 352? Because the next question does ask you, where is the actual one? Round it to the nearest. So adjust to determine within 1 foot. Round your nearest to the whole number, so 350 what? 2. A little bit weird how they asked that last part of the question, so I hope you paid attention to that. Okay, because it doesn't make intuitive sense why they would say make a table going by 25s. I mean, who counts by 25s? But they wanted you to get a table that went really fast like that. So 25, 50, you know, so you can start seeing where the heights, where the numbers jumped up and then jumped down. You could go back and pick the one that was about the middle. Turns out it was 350, but we could get there a lot faster just by taking the distance, cutting it in half, and then getting it to the closest 25. Right, it's either going to be 350, 375, or 325. You know what I mean? Something like that. And then using that number in the table, we were able to get what they call the height, 175.78, but we know it's higher than that just by a couple feet. You know what I mean? And that's it. There's only 2 of these. The next one's much faster. The rest of the homework is already something you've done. I'll show you. The first one here is, let's go ahead and get our calculators cleared out of everything. So I'll just take my, this one here, and I'll clear it out by going to y equals and hit clear, going to my table here, and I'm going to hit clear, delete. And what's another thing I need to do?
Zoom 7.
What's that?
Zoom 7.
6.
Or Zoom 6.
Yeah, why, that's exactly right. Why am I doing that though?
It resets the graph.
Yeah, because where's our graph right now? 0 to, but actually it turns out the next question is going to be a 0 to 1,000 by a 0 to 1,000. But we only know that because they tell us, not because I don't know anything about costs and what it's going to be. I did know a little bit about golf, and so should you, because we live in a state where there's a golf, you know, course every 10 feet, right? So you can't walk without hitting one, it seems like, but so we should all know a little bit about the game of golf, at least somewhat, that the golf ball goes more than 10 feet, right? Everybody knows that. How much it costs to cross the Atlantic in a plane, that's not something everybody would know off the street. But in any case, we're gonna get this function into y1. So it's, mine says 50, you're gonna see something else, 50 plus x divided by 9. And then plus, mine says 380,000. Did I do that right? Divided by x. Where x is the ground speed. Now the ground speed of an airplane, if you're traveling with the wind, if the airplane, well, I'm not sure how realistic this is, but if the airplane is going 150 miles an hour in the air, you can tack on the tailwind with it, right, to get the true speed it would be going across the ground. And if you're going into the wind, you could subtract it, right, because it's gonna slow the wind down. Then, of course, if the wind's coming in an angle, we have trigonometry to figure out what the actual wind resistance is, and all kinds of stuff. We're gonna keep this simple though, okay? We're just gonna call it, this is the function that's including the airspeed. First thing they say is they want to find out when x equals to 450 or when x equals to 560. What am I gonna do? What did we do last time?
The
Go to the
table.
table. Yeah, just table it out. So we got 450 and 560. I just went ahead and did them both. Be careful with the instructions over here, I didn't read this one. Round to the nearest dollar. In other words, don't put in 184.44, but what, just 184? Gotta watch out for those instructions sometimes. Trust me, I know. And what's the next one? 180. That's all they want us to do there. This one will go real fast, especially after you know a little about what you're doing, okay? All right, so the domain of this function, the domain is the airspeed. So it technically, what would be the lowest airspeed an airplane could have?
Zero.
Okay. And again, if a plane's going 0, it's probably not much of a plane anymore, more like a big rock, right? So, but just for fun, that makes sense though. But if you notice right here, they have an x in the denominator here. So we actually can't let x be 0, not because of the true meaning of the airspeed, but because the function has a problem because we don't divide by what?
0.
So we have to be just bigger than 0. How do you say that? X is
Greater than.
big greater than 0. So just in this little box right here, just type in x greater than. Yes, sir. Okay. And then we have to get one graphs that look like theirs. So you don't know what to do for the window, but you do. What's it say right there? Graph C for x between 0 and 1,000 and y between 0 and 1,000. So they're telling us. And they have to, because if I don't know those numbers, none of these, I don't even know how to make this graph. Does that make sense? So they had to tell us these numbers. So in y equals, window, sorry, not y equals window, we're going to make our x minimum 0. See how it says 0 right there? And what's our x maximum? 1,000. And then just do the same for the y min and the y max. The y minimum is 0 and the y max 1,000. And hit graph. And now we should have something that looks like one of those two. I saw B as well. What do you guys think? All right, the last part of the question says make a table. I think we know how to do that, don't we? So let's make a table with all these. I'm gonna need your help a little bit here, because my computer won't let me see the table and punch in the numbers at the same time, so you're gonna have to help me. Just make sure you get the same numbers you made. I'm gonna delete these out, and I'm gonna put in what they got there. 450, and then 500, and 550, and then 600. Okay. So we have the answers right there. And somebody, you got it round to 2 decimal places, so what'd you get for 450?
184.4.
0.44?
Yeah.
And for the next one?
181.56. 180.2. And then just 180.
Awesome. Last piece of the puzzle, looking through there, if this is the cost, which one would you like to pay? What's the best cost for you up there? I hope this is one of the ones that does this. I guess it's 600, right, is the cheapest?
Yeah.
This sometimes messes up, hold on, this is probably one of those times. No, that worked. Every once in a while, this thing glitches out. I've been doing this one for a few years now. I've done this actual problem for a few years. And every once in a while, this glitches out. Whenever it's on the end one right here, the actual answer might be 601, and they don't have it, and it glitches out. It's done it to me several times. And if that happens to you, you can just hit another question and just redo it, or just come find me and I'll fix it. You know what I mean? So, but that's it. See, that one didn't take long at all, right? Now that you know how to do it. And now check out the rest of the homework here. Rest hung over is a big switch in gears. This is where the function's been shifted around. This is exactly what you did on the test. This one says the function whose graph was x cubed but shifted down 3 units. So I take x cubed and I want to shift it down 3 units. What do I do?
Plus 3.
Minus 3.
Oh.
Minus 3. Up and down doesn't change, right? Only the inside one horizontal. So you guys got this. You get the whole rest of this homework, at least for a while. I don't even really need to do this. We did this on the test right here. Except number 5. Okay. Yeah, please take good notes. Put a big giant thing in your notes right now. Question 5, homework 5. Easy to remember. 5 and 5. This irritated me to no end the other day. Nothing I can do about it though, except show you how to do it, okay? So, according to what I've told you, let's do first what seems like the right thing to do. So we got to shift up of 4 units. We're starting with what? Square root of x. How do you shift something up 4 units?
Outside at 4.
Okay, everybody good with that? How do you reflect it about the x-axis?
X negative.
Okay, reflect about the y-axis. Okay, that should have worked, right?
It's wrong.
Why is it wrong? It is
You
wrong.
can't have a negative. on
No,
the
no,
outside.
no, that's not why, that's not why. But when you see why, you'll get mad and see it, but watch, I'm gonna push this in to subtract the square root of x, negative x, which is right, and then we're gonna put a plus 4 on the outside, and we're gonna say, nope, totally knew that was happening. What is it? Well, this is what's wrong. How do you move up and down on a function? What's the operations that you use? Plus and minus, right? And when you're reflecting, what is that?
Minus.
Multiplication.
PEMDAS. Multiplication happens before addition and subtraction. Think it backwards. So what that means is that we just have to account for that by doing it like this. And this is what got me so angry, because yes, this is true, but this is not really a good way to teach this. Shift up 4 units. Okay, we know how to do that, right? Now take the whole thing and reflect it about the x-axis. Parentheses. But what does that negative do?
Makes the 4 negative.
Right? And then what does this do? Put the minus in here. So now at the end result, it looks like we went down 4 units because we went up and then shifted. Right? That's not how it usually works. We usually shift and then go up. But they went up and then flipped. That's going to put you 4 units down. Does that make sense? Anyways, just for number 5, just remember to put this in parentheses for this one right here and to distribute the negative and you'll be fine. It looks like we're going down 4 because we are, even though it says up 4 here, because they flipped it over the x-axis after they moved it up. So if it goes up 4 and then we flip it, it's gone what? Down 4. Does that make sense? Because they did it out of order. So I just wanted you to see that one. So our answer was really close, right? All you have to do is take the middle one and do what? Make it negative. The rest of them don't do that. So as long as you have that little thing like you did on the test, if you did good on the test, you're gonna nail every one of these. I'm not even gonna bother doing them, I'm gonna wait till, we can graph them, I'll do a graph for you one time. So this is just x squared plus 6. I like these graphs because what you can do is you can hit the graph, this is a square.
Wait one second. Oh, is it, would you put it in as negative and then parentheses negative, or root negative x plus 4, or do you put it as,
Do you use the parentheses or not?
No,
Okay.
you don't use the parentheses? You do it as negative x minus 4? Okay.
why wouldn't you?
Because when you shift left and right, it will be inside the square root.
Yeah, this is the y equals right there. This is the y-axis right here.
Right.
This is the x-axis. And I distribute that negative here and there.
Oh, okay, so you leave out the negative.
You know, I put the negative in, it's right here, and it's right there. This
Oh.
negative went there and there.
Okay.
Just distribute it, that's all. If you distribute it, you don't need the parentheses anymore. If you have minus x plus 1, what is that distributed?
Negative x minus 1.
But it's still good, it's still on the out, okay.
Yeah, it's still on the outside. The one on the inside, leave that off for a second.
Okay.
That's not because of this.
Yeah, that's a
because of
different-
the last piece.
Yes.
Okay, then I just went and added that, or, but not added the wrong one, put that in there.
Now, we've already been tested on this, right? Or is it gonna be on the next test too?
You've already been tested.
Yeah, okay, it was just, cause I tried to do this homework and I don't know what I was doing wrong on the graph.
But now you do.
No, you're gonna show me what I did wrong right now.
Nothing, okay. All right, so what picture does the square fit? The U.
The U.
What about the Q? The S. And the absolute value?
V.
Okay, cool. All right, so this one has a square. See the square? So which one of these do I pick? The U. Just hit anywhere you want to. Doesn't matter, they're gonna pull up this box. Vertical stretch, that's the A value. Do you see any A value here other than 1? We're not gonna do horizontal stretch in this class. Has it been flipped over the axis? Either one. The only thing that's been done is a vertical shift by how many? 6. So I'll put in a 6 right here. That should be it. And every one of these has one of those, so, the domain on these things. This is something important. Minus infinity to infinity means that there are no x's that I can't square, right? What kind of stuff do we have that are problems for functions when you divide by 0 or when you take the square root of a negative number? We're not doing any of that stuff here, so this is a very well-behaved function. In other words, every x in the world, in the whole, real number system can be used. However, the range, what's the range going to do? Yeah, the range is gonna go from as high as it, as low as 6 and up, right? So let me get that in there real fast, let me check my answer. And then we get the range here, the range, I'm gonna just copy in that same thing, but I'm gonna change it this side to 6 with a bracket. Why a bracket?
Because you include it.
Because I can actually hit 6, right? And then, next question. Okay. So this one, the same thing, I'll just hit the graph, it's a cube, see the cube? So what picture is it, the U or the S?
Yes.
S, just hit wherever you want to. I like to drag this thing right underneath so I can see what's going on. It has the inside is going to move horizontally by how much?
+1.
Which direction, plus or minus? Plus, because it's backwards, see that? And then the outside is gonna go down by 2. You should do it in the order that it's supposed to happen to, even though in this case it wouldn't change. And that's all we've done. What's the domain for this one?
Real numbers.
Okay, the last one. Now, this one goes both ways, so what's the range? All real numbers. See that? I'll let you fool with that one, it's easy to figure out. This one right here has 3 things happening to it. So let's go ahead and get a graph. It's got a square, see the square? So that's the U, just hit anywhere. I'll move the box right up here so you can see some more. First thing I do is change that A to 5. Now remember, if there's a -5 out front, the vertical stretch is always the absolute value. You're never putting a negative value in the stretch. You're either stretching it up or you're stretching it down, but the down will come from reflecting it here. So you don't need to put any negatives here. That doesn't have a negative, but if it did, you'd be tempted to put -5 in there. It's always the absolute value of what's out there, goes in here. Then we're gonna check this box though, right? Well, we would if there was a negative, but there's nothing there, so we're not gonna check them out. But what's next? 3 here and what? -3 here and then -1 there. We're done. Again, the domain is all real numbers. This one's going to be what? We're going to start with
-1.
do bracket, go to -1. Okay. Did you notice that I copied the minus infinity to infinity the first time I did it? So I can, because I got like 6 questions you're going to need it, I just Control V'd it in there and just changed it as I needed. A lot of them didn't even need to be changed. Very convenient, because it is not typing parentheses minus infinity to infinity doesn't take long, but isn't it fun just to punch it in there? especially when you know you're gonna need it a few times. One more, okay, so I'm gonna grab this thing, this is a what, cubic? So I grab my S, just throw it in there, grab the box. No vertical stretch, but we do have a reflection over the X, right? And then the next thing is -3 on the, why am I doing negative? It says positive there.
The inside lies.
Yeah, I like that. And then 1. You thought lies, who was it, Ellie, did you tell us that? That's awesome, man. I am so stealing that, and I even forgot until right now.
That was like my mantra. The inside lies.
Okay, what's the domain of this one?
I'll remember it.
Alright, so control V. What's the range? Same thing, control V. You get that, we did these in class already, so we are done now with 5. And the good news about 6, did you guys see 6 yet?
Take questions.
It's gonna have like 100 parts though, right?
Not really. Not really.
Not
We
really.
can finish
Only,
both.
only 75.
We're gonna finish both of these today. We got the half hour left, we can definitely knock out 2 questions. Okay?
That's same as last year's.
Yeah, isn't that great to see?
I don't trust it.
What, am I not a trustworthy person?
It's not you. That's
First one, oh, how did that happen?
the ghost.
Again?
IT's playing with you.
That could be, yeah, they could be listening. No wonder they don't answer my phone call. We heard the other thing. Yeah. It is definitely a ghost in here. He's been assigned to take college algebra. So what happened? I had it pulled up.
6.
I don't know, what happened?
The ghost.
Tell me how the quiz for 6 has 5 questions.
Say it one more time.
The quiz for 6 has 5 questions.
It can't
The hom-
have 5 questions.
The homework has 2, the quiz has 6. I just saw, or 5, I just saw it.
No.
With my eyeballs, I saw it.
No, the ghost is making you crazy.
Okay.
Quiz has probably 2 questions. Same 2 from the homework. Okay, so. If I walked into the room here with 3 pennies, and I sold them for 10 cents a piece, how much money would I have in my hands?
3 cents.
How'd you figure that out?
Wait.
You said 3
Don't wait.
cents.
Don't wait. 30 cents.
Right, because I'd have 10 cents times 3. In other words,
That, I heard my own brain.
the number of things you sell times the price for each one is the number of money you'll bring in. Now, I know this isn't economics, but I have to help the economics section out too, so that's where you're coming in right here. You'll see this in microeconomics, so the number of items times the price. In case you forget, they tell you right here, remember, R equals X, the number of items times P, the price. Okay, now X in this case though, the number of items is following the demand equation. So the number of items is equal to minus 5P plus 100. You get it? So if I want to take that minus 5P and that's the number of items, right? Because that's what X is. And how do you find it again? The number of items times what? Times P. Make sense? Now technically you should probably write that like this though. The revenue in terms of P is equal to minus 5P squared plus 100P. Because if you multiply each of those by P, it just puts another P on this, and then of course a P here, right? That's what that is. If you see the distributive of what I just did there, let me move this box so you can see what I'm talking about. That would be minus 5 times P squared, right? Plus 100P. The reason you might want to write it like this is, what do we know about this function now? Tell me some things you know about that.
Quadratic.
What is it?
Quadratic.
Quadratic, it opens what? Up or down? It opens down, so therefore it has a what? maximum point. And if we're doing a profit, or excuse me, revenue, what do we usually do as a company?
Maximum profit.
And that's the idea, right? How could the profit go down as you get more items? Well, because the items might cost you more to keep around, or if you get the price too high, then the revenue's gonna go down because nobody's gonna buy it. If you put the revenue too low, the price too low, you'll make money, but not as much because you're selling them too cheap. There's like a happy medium where you got the price just right, where people will buy them, and it's not costing you as much, okay? So that's what, this goes on every day in business, in case you don't know this, but we'll figure out how to work this problem. So the first part was pretty easy, right? It even tells you right there, X times P. Just don't write X times P. What is X? X is that. See what I mean? So X times P. Now, the next question on this one, and there's quite a few, but the next one says, what's the domain? Well, what's the lowest price you can have, you guys?
0.
Okay, so I'm not even gonna explain that one. That side's 0. What's the highest price you can have in this situation right here? Well, the highest price you can have is the one that makes X into what? 0, because if you've got it so high, how many are you gonna sell? 0, right? If I'm charging $500 for one of those pens, I walk and say, $500 get you a pen, and how many are you gonna buy that from? By the way, it's for sale for $500. Of course you're not gonna buy, nobody's gonna pay $500 for this, right? You've outpriced your item completely, right? So,
It might be a really good pen though.
but it's not, it's just a simple one. You're not getting anything special. As a matter of fact, it's fairly used. So of course, we can outprice it. So whatever makes our value come down to 0 right here is going to be the price that we want to, well, that's going to be our highest point, because after that, nobody's going to buy it. So how do I solve this equation? Let's take and add 5p to both sides, right? And divide by 5. So p equals to 20. So $20 is the highest price we can buy. Anything after $20, it's all, but that's going to be negative values. Right, so we're going to stick with 20. So how did I get the left-hand side? Well, that, just hoping that everybody understands that price, the lowest price you can have for something is free. Negative price means I'm paying you to take it away, and that's not happening, right? So 0 is, 0 is the lowest price you can have. How do you find the highest price? Well, that depends on each situation. This is our situation. Set the situation equal to 0, and you can find your highest price. Make sense? All right, what price maximizes the revenue? Huh. I'm gonna ask you guys what that word ends in.
Eyes.
Ah, that's good, because we know that, right? That's the what? Minus b over 2a from this thing. That's why you might wanna write this like this though, because you can see minus b over 2a. Heck, I can even do this one in my head. The minuses go away. That's 100 over 10. I'm feeling like that's 10. Didn't even need a calculator for that one. Okay. Now, how many units will I sell at that? Oh, no, wait. It's asking me what the maximum revenue is. See, now they put the mum. How do I find the mum?
Plug it in.
Either here, right? So 10 squared is 100. 100 times minus 5. Minus 500. 10 times 1,000. 100, sorry. 10 times 100 is 1,000. 1,000 minus 500. 500. Do that in our heads. And then how many units are sold at this price? Well, this is the number that makes the number of units, right? So minus 5 times 10, negative 50. 100 minus 50? 50. All right, now we want to make a graph of this thing. Can you immediately rule out B and C? Okay, and then if you look at A and D, you're like, wait, they're the same dang graph. There's just one problem. Look at the units that they're calling on each side. So which one is it? You can't see them big enough, I guess, it's too small, hold on. let me pop out the wrong one. This is the wrong one, and you tell me why it's wrong. Well, you can't see that either, you can if you look real
Oh
close.
my gosh.
No, it's because of this letter right here, and this letter right here.
They
It's
look the
not
same.
revenue versus price, it's price versus revenue, right? You see what I mean? And they got revenue on the ground and the price going up, so the more revenue you make, that is wrong. So it's the exact same graph though, so just find the one that has price on the bottom, and you'll be fine. And how come it isn't the other ones? Well, the other ones make the wrong shape altogether. So it's definitely this one. All right, last thing now, for the company to earn at least 375 means that this equation right here, minus 5p squared plus 100p has to equal 375, right? Why, I think our maximum was 500, right? But if we've got to make sure that we sell enough 375 just so we can pay our bills, right, that's a minimum, we might want to lower our price just a tad bit, or in some cases raise it, whatever, that's another. Then I'll let the economics teacher explain all that to you. We need to solve this equation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna subtract 375 from both sides, right? That's gonna make this equal to 0 like this. Are you cool with that? I just subtracted it from both sides. And what kind of equation is that? Quadratic. So now we have to solve a quadratic. I think you can pull a 5 out, a negative 5 out of there. Let's see, negative 5 here, and you have p squared plus, actually minus 20p. And somebody tell me what 375 divided by 5 is?
75.
75, okay. Are you guys all good with this? Now I can divide off the minus 5, so all I have to do is just divide minus 5 off from this side, and it goes away, but that stays 0. So I'm now down to just this. Two numbers that multiply to 75 and add to 20. 15 and 5. 15 times 5 is 75, 15 plus 5 is 20. So p minus 5, p minus 15. In other words, 5 and 15.
I love how you look at us like, yeah, we had that.
5 times 15 is 75, you have that one. How about 5 plus 15?
20.
What's 12 plus 5? What's 5 plus 7?
12.
Oh, I got that wrong.
Some people think it's 13.
My sister would say 15, unfortunately.
It's the only thing you got wrong on the test.
Yeah.
One little question. 5 plus 7. Listen, man, I make mistakes all the time. That's why I gave you that credit. Okay. So, what did we say, 5 and what? Now, maybe I went a little fast here, but you guys know how to factor a trinomial. And it wouldn't be long before you figured out what's 5 and 15, would it be?
No.
Just play with your calculators. I mean, maybe you didn't go, oh yeah, 5 and 15, 75, but you would have eventually. Okay. That wasn't that bad, was it? The next one is even easier. Maybe we can get out here early if it works out a bit, because if we finish up this homework section, we'll be good. Okay, so anybody here a farmer?
Well, his name's Eddie, Farmer Ed.
That was hard.
Farmer Ed Waterville. Let's draw a picture. I know there's one already there, but on the test it won't be, so what I would do is I draw a picture. Let's read the question. Farmer Ed has 2,500 meters of fence. He was busy at Home Depot, wasn't he? Okay, so, and wants to enclose a rectangular plot that borders the St. Johns River. Oh, no, this is true. If Farmer Ed does not fence the side on the water, what's the largest area he can enclose? All right, well, you won't have a picture like that, but if we draw the river. Wait a minute. Let's make it the St. John's River. No blue in our garden, for sure. Okay, but we have, let's see. I'm gonna do it this way. X plus Y plus X is all my fence, right? How much fence do I have? 2,500 or 25,000? 2,500 feet of fence, that's a pretty big one. So technically I can say Y plus 2X is equal to 2,500, right? Subtract 2X, you get Y is equal to 2,500 minus 2X. So I can write 2,500 minus 2X. And of course, they already did that for you. That's why I can assure you that you won't have that picture of the test. I need you to do that step. You see what I'm saying? Now, how do we find the area of a rectangle, you guys?
Next time, please.
Base times the height, right? Length times width, whatever you want to call it. Is everybody good with that? Okay, so what would that equation look like? The area will be equal to 2,500 minus 2x times x. Throw that into the distributive, you get 2,500 x minus 2x squared. Rewrite it in the right form so that we have the a value first, so you don't make a mistake on what you're calling a and b. And then they want us to find the largest, which you can interpret as the maximum. How do you do that? Well, first you have to find the IZE part, which would be what? Minus b over 2a. Turns out to be negative 2,500 divided by minus 2 times 2. Which is, well, the negatives go away, is 2,500 divided by 4. Who wants to be cool enough to tell me? I think it's 625 or something like that, but what is it?
Yeah.
625? I do know how to do math sometimes, but I'd rather see you guys be participants. What does this value represent right here? That's x. So this part right here is 625. How do I find out what y is? Well, y is 2,500 minus twice that, so I'm gonna go with 12.1250. Okay. What's the area? Start multiplying, you guys. 1250 times 625. It's a pretty big amount of area. What is it?
781,250.
700. Maybe I'll tell you what. Just read me the numbers straight up. 7.
81,250.
Wasn't too bad, was it? Oh, 6 is done. Which means we're a little bit more than halfway through the course when the terms of the homework is concerned, but I know we only got 2 weeks left, right? So, but take a look at this. Save that. Okay, so number 7 has quite a bit, but they start getting really fast towards the end, like, where is it here? Look at number 11. So we are way past halfway. We're on the downside now. There's just one more big push that's gonna be hard. I think it's at homework number 8. And then after that, it's gonna be good. So what I would like you guys to do is try to catch up to quiz 6 as soon as possible this week. So you should be all the way through quizzes 1 through 6 and homework 1 through 6 by the end of this week. And then we'll finish out the rest of them next week. We need to have a test on test 3 coming up, which is going to be stuff we can do probably by Tuesday of next week. I'm thinking test 3 is gonna happen. And then we'll take the final the following week. Okay? And tomorrow we'll go starting on homework number 7, which is, well, I don't want to show you any about it because you got enough to go through right now, that's for sure. But let's see. Yeah, that's not too bad, it's only 15 questions. It covers this material right here, which is probably what I think it's gonna be. Yeah, that's a piece of cake. I think this gets into the, make sure that I don't do the, hold on, wait. here we go, so check this out. Right here, problem number, what is that? Number is that? Question 6. Question, yes, it's question 6. Question 6 is where the stuff for test 3 ends. Everything else is gonna be on the file. Make sense? So if you can get all the way through the next homework tomorrow to this question, you'll be ready for the test 3. So all the stuff we talked about today. Not much on test 3, but what is on there is kinda heavy. Have a good day, guys. Anybody have any questions about their test?